High converting landing pages are not made for beauty. They are made to influence the brain. My name is Conlin-Hurd, and I have launched over 600 landing pages in over 120 niches. I run a 7-figure agency called Persuasion Experience, and I have been flown around the world from Vegas to San Diego to London to Mexico, next year Dubai, so that I can break down what I know from launching all of these landing pages and all of these funnels. And today, team, I'm going to be giving you the 9 psychological cheat codes so that you can double the leads and the sales from your landing pages today. Let's get started. Okay, number 1, and for each one, I'm going to be showing you what it means, why it works, how to avoid doing the wrong things, and then I'm going to show you real examples that I've created so you can see exactly how to bring it to life. And our first one is effective priming. So when it comes to effective priming, this is a psychological principle where the visuals and the copy are going to influence the user's emotions before they consciously process the content, right? So it really sets the emotional tone of the page, and it helps it to feel, right? And that's the word I'm saying, like not logical, but feel more believable, more inspiring, and more trustworthy. It's the vibe of your page, and it happens subconsciously for people on the page. They aren't even aware it's happening, but it still shapes how they feel and how they behave. So recapping all of that, that's because people make buying decisions emotionally first, then they rationalize them. Then they bring in the logic to justify it. So when your visuals, your copy, and your design aligns emotionally with how you want them to feel, they're going to feel safer and more excited to convert. When it comes to effective priming, these are the things that I see people getting wrong. A big one is focusing too much on the before pain, right? And getting people into this negative frenzy, like getting them to acknowledge that all of the pain, yes, that's great. You need to show that you understand them. But if you do that too much, you are going to attract low quality leads and red flag clients that energetically are not going to be a good fit. They're going to be annoying leads to deal with. Also, I see people using a lot of fear-based imagery or language like stress, overwhelm, burnout, and unless your products are literally solving trauma, you want to be able to focus more on the transformation that you're selling. I'm going to show you that in a second. Then sometimes people have these inconsistent emotional tones, like a very scary headline and then a friendly photo next to it. That's inconsistent and it confuses us, right? We don't know what to do. Stock images. They're getting better, but that feel really staged or cheesy. Real estate agents, I'm talking about you. And then the visuals competing with the copy. So the whole thing that makes anything convert is the copy and the offer. And if your images are too abstract or irrelevant, it will create confusion, not clarity. What do I mean? So how can you use this? Recently, I did a video on updating the Claude AI landing page, right? And what I did on this was many things, but one of the big things was using visuals that evoke the desired emotional state. You can see on their before page, it just feels nothing. And when I was redesigning the page, this screenshot's a bit blurry, but I added some color into it. Cool. All right, that's a good start. I added in some of the influencers that they were using through their ads. And also I used somebody's video that they had made of them. I used more social proof. So I wanted to make it feel more human, right? Because why? The visuals are going to evoke the desired emotional state. These are telling people how to feel. For example, inside my community, The Obsessed, we give away our landing page launch kit, and then I give feedback on people's landing pages. And somebody was doing like a fumigation one, and everything was awesome. But an image above the fold, it was kind of like this image where it was showing the process. When I see this, I'm like, ugh. That's not what I want. What I want is the desired end outcome. My kids are safe and happy. My pets are safe and happy. And so I advise them, hey, change this image because no one wants the fumigation. They want the end outcome. Additionally, on the landing page, other ways that we use this is through using images. Now, you don't just want to slap an image on there, right? These have been used purposefully. This is like a disability personal trainer program. to use the power of demonstration, but also looking at these images, they've got nice lighting, everyone looks happy, it's showing what's happening, and that's using imagery to evoke that emotion. Okay, so that's number one. Number two then, when it comes to effective priming, is the colors, the fonts, the layout match the emotional tone. So for example, this is a home builder, and what we did is we used one of their images to had a really bright blue in the background, a really nice clean house. It all looks like spacious and nice. The fonts are nice, everything's easy to read, it feels organized. Imagine if we had a traditionally fugly home builder page. It wouldn't feel good, especially considering our whole thing was say no to ugly, outdated granny flats. Our whole thing was that we are selling luxury mini homes. So if we had it feel cramped and dirty or clinical, then subconsciously, it wouldn't have evoked the right emotion. But what if I'm working in law? Okay, well, I mean, we always usually use the client's brand style guides, of course, but we might use a different weighted font. We want to have an image of her speaking on stage. We use different things to evoke different emotions. So in summary, this is why I put this first, because I don't think enough people think about this for landing pages. Most people just shit them out. They're an afterthought. They make some ads, and I've even got someone in my DMs, hey, can you just consult on my page and just tell me what to do? It's just not that simple. You need the right ingredients. You need to understand your target market. You need to know your messaging and differentiation. You need to have the social proof. You need to have the offer. You need to have the strategy right. And just not enough people actually put the effort in, and then they don't get good results. And marketing's inputs and outputs, garbage in, garbage out. Rant over. What emotion do you want someone to feel? And then design the conscious and the subconscious cues around that. And when you're reviewing your page, just think, how does this make me feel? Just look inside of yourself and think, how does this make me feel? Because if you're not feeling excited, neither will your market. Okay, number two, selective attention, the thing that I suffer from. Okay, so people don't read landing pages. They're gonna scan them for relevance. Some readers, some users will read word for word, some will skim headlines, some will scroll straight to the bottom. People use them differently. So this selective attention is about interrupting the flow and directly focusing their eye onto what matters. And we want to design them, like our pages, to align with their specific goal, ensuring the focus is on the most important elements like the call to action, the offer, the key benefits, and you want to remove any distractions and guide their eye to the conversion path, right? So it's not just about grabbing attention, but then it's about funneling that attention towards what you want them to do on the page. I'm going to show you that in a second. And in some of these other psychological principles, I'm also going to show you some of the ads, like our Facebook ads and how it looks in an ad as well, right? So effectively, why does this work? We and our monkey brains and our lizard brains, we have limited cognitive bandwidth. If your user has to think too hard, they're going to bail, remembering that a confused mind doesn't buy. So they're going to ignore anything that looks like everything else and focus on what feels relevant, important, and different, right? It has to trigger new in their brain for them to pay it attention. So what do we want to avoid? We want to avoid grabbing their attention with no next step. And offense but no offense, lawyers, you guys always do this, right? So this is a Google ad, and then it goes to this page, and it's not guiding my eye. There's no call to action, there's no offer. So we've got their attention, but we haven't interrupted with a direction. Another big issue I see is people overloading the page with too much information. And here's the thing, the design is not the thing that's going to get it to convert. Yes, just like I'm showing you, design's important, it gives an emotion, but your offer and your copy are the two things that make it high converting. And so what I see, because I've watched so many Microsoft Clarity session recordings and clickings and stuff, is designers feel like they're going to fill the space with design. That's not what we want to do, because it distracts people. And I've literally seen people clicking around and getting distracted on these pages. We don't want inconsistent layouts, and we don't want to have multiple call to actions that split the focus. So how can you use selective attention? Well, the first thing is ideally you're optimizing based off of data, and this is qualitative data. So what you want to do is get Microsoft Clarity, which is free. Probably means that your data is getting sold, because whenever something's free, you are the product, but here we are. And you'll be able to see heat maps, you'll be able to see scroll maps, and you'll be able to see click maps. That will give us the qualitative data to understand how somebody is using the page. Now, another way that we use this selective attention is we'll have no navigation. When you have a landing page, it's not your website homepage. You want to have one thing they can do on that page, and that is to take the next step with you. So call to action, that's it. You click that and you go through it. Now, in some industries, and I don't have time to talk about all the nuances, some industries you want to have a bit of a nav, and that nav is more about mirroring or looking like a website, right? So you have to understand what are the buyer decision questions, and then you might have it in the navigation and it will anchor down to somewhere on the page. And I would usually then be watching those where people click on Microsoft Clarity and then testing them. Where does their attention go to? What do they care about? And that can change the messaging hierarchy on the page. The next thing, remembering that selective attention is about guiding them to look at something. So we might use something like a pattern interrupt. And when we use a pattern interrupt, that's kind of like your design might look beautiful and they're scrolling, but I want them, you know, when you stub your toe on some furniture and you got to pay attention to that, then I want them to like stub their eye. It's like, it might look a bit ugly or it looks a bit weird. It doesn't maybe look like the rest of the page. And that's because I want them to pay attention to this part. So for example, with this, we're using this warning, right? Warning. Or we're using these articles and then we have a warning. You might also do something like this, like a tangible benefit they're going to get. And I'm going to show you some other examples of what I call native proof further on in one of the other principles. The summary here is the design complements. The offer and the copy are the most important thing for high conversions. And the whole point of the design is to get somebody to take up the offer. So every pixel is valuable real estate, and you don't want to be slapping images on or fancy little things floating around for the sake of it. You only want to have things that are on the page that are going to help with the conversion. All right, proof stacking. Not technically a psychological principle. That's because there's 3 psychological principles I'm about to show you. But what does proof stacking mean? So this is intentional placement of multiple forms of social and credibility proof throughout the landing page. I'll show you examples in a second. Not just in one spot, not just in one format, not just a sliding testimonial. We are stacking proof. And it's kind of the difference between saying this works and then proving it in different ways over and over again until it is undeniable. We're not just trying to make a good impression, we're building a case. And every layer of proof is like another piece of evidence in a winning argument, believability. So we'll go over some examples, but basically the end result is a landing page that feels impossible to disagree with, right? And you take up the offer. What you want to avoid is relying on just a testimonial carousel. People tune them out. You want to avoid generic praise like, thank you for your help, or they're amazing, right? It's not as powerful as they 3x'd my pipeline in 6 weeks. So if you're going to be using proof or testimonials, you want specificity. You don't want to place proof at the bottom. Most people will never get down to there. And you don't need polished assets. Now, in some industries, it helps, but most of them, you don't need it. And I'm going to show you this. Okay, so why it works and how to use it, I'm going to show you all in one because I've got 3 different like psychological principles that come under this. The first is the truth effect. So repetition equals believability. People are more likely to believe it's true if we repeat it and we hear the same message again and again and again in politics or propaganda, or maybe they're the same thing. You'll notice they repeat the same thing again and again, and then it becomes the majority's truth, right? It's just human psychology. So for example, on this page for this lawyer, we're showing, okay, here's the results. We're stacking it. Okay, now here's the results again. We're stacking it within the copy. Okay, now we've got this as a proof block, like even having her like founder and managing partner. The title is a part of the proof. Then we have case studies, That's proof. And we're repeating it throughout the page again and again and again. So that's not even the whole page. That's just some of the screenshots of the proof stacking that we do. Now the other one, or the second one, is actually I have only two to show you. I moved another one somewhere else. Number 2 is consensus bias, aka social validation. We assume something is more valid or trustworthy if many people believe or do it. I am not ashamed to say that I know all of this, and I still will not make a decision before reading Google reviews. And I know sometimes they can be faked. And I also know that most of the population isn't that smart, and I shouldn't probably be trusting their opinion, but I will not go to a dinner spot unless it has good Google reviews, right? So for example, on this page, this is how we stack this consensus bias. We have 5 stars. We show, okay, there's some images of people doing this coaching program. Then we have the video testimonials with the, it's like we call it forced consumption with the titles. We don't rely on somebody to watch it. This is just one page. Then we have, okay, well, they work with NFL Super Bowl champions. Let's have that in there. Okay, let's have a picture with everybody with their certifications. Awesome, more proof. Let's keep going. Now, some of you are going to be like, well, what if I don't have any proof? I got a video for that. It's called something like 9 ways to get proof, even if you have none, or something like that. Okay, but basically, what we're looking for on this page is repetition of your big idea, your domino belief, and then backing it up with your proof with intent. That's what we want to do on this page. Next, number 4, the chunking principle. What is this? So this is a cognitive psychology concept that says people can only hold 3 to 5 pieces of information in their short-term memory at once. So when you give them too much information all at once, they'll just drop all of it. It'll get overwhelming. And I've seen this like with my team. If I give them too much information, like bleh, word vomit on them, they forget everything because it's overwhelming, and then it all leaves their mind, and I should know better. So chunking is about breaking down your message into bite-sized, logically grouped parts so the brain can process it quickly and retain it, and repeating the same thing in different ways. Sometimes, rarely now, because I'm not my first rodeo, clients say like, oh, the page feels very repetitive. And I'll say, yes, I am not trying to convince them of a lot. If I was trying to introduce all of these new big ideas and like trying to convince them of all of these different things, nothing would stick. I just need to understand what's the big one domino belief to topple, and then what are my like sub things under there. So this will work, this chunking principle. I'm about to show you how to do it, because our brains are wired to scan, not absorb. And chunking aligns with how we naturally process information. Actually, how I figured out chunking, or how I learned chunking, I didn't figure it out, I didn't invent it, was during maybe high school or university, and that's how I learned to memorize things. And that's why I don't think too much of like traditional education. Although like I am book smart, I'm also just really good at remembering shit like that from chunking. And this reduces cognitive overload, so people feel smart while reading, okay? Which builds trust and momentum. Confused mind doesn't buy. If it's too hard for them to like figure out what's going on this page, they're going to bounce, right? So what do you want to avoid? Dense walls of text. And I do long form copy. Unless you're really hardcore direct response in niches like survival and that sort of stuff, I can bet you that my pages are longer than yours. I'm going to show you how to do it. You don't want to be listing things out with no grouping or subheading. You have to organize the information. You don't want to deliver the entire offer in one uninterrupted block. And you don't want to in the visual layout, so you don't want to cram content, right, with no white space. It's about that readability. So the first way how to do it is to have bullet points to deliver product features, benefits, or transformations. This is that same lawyer page as before. We have the subhead, and then we have the lead bullets. See how like I'm making certain things stand out. Then another section, how our system works to protect you from counterfeits, right? Easy to consume the information and understand it. As another example, this is a hair restoration doctor when we're talking about his authority. Boom. Over 5,000 satisfied patients. Boom, boom, boom. In another world, somebody might write these as big slabs of text. That would be very hard for me to consume, and my brain would automatically snap off. Actually, another thing is with our pages, you'll notice that the lines are not super long. We usually aim for about 11 words. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, give or take. I try to avoid orphan words. I might have had this looking weird on my bigger laptop screen. Anyway, because for scannability, right? 11 words. If it's any longer, it feels overwhelming. And then if it's deep text, it feels overwhelming. I can personally feel my brain shutting off when I see that sort of stuff. The next one for this is to use numbered lists or frameworks, like this video, 9 cheat codes. They signal structure and memorability, and they don't signal hard work. Oh, this is easy. Okay, because our brain is trying to conserve energy at all times. That's how we are wired evolutionarily, right? So it has to be easy or I ain't doing it. So for example here, 10 reasons why Aussie SMEs get trade finance. Boom. 7 reasons why Escalegal is your brand's best defense. We just make it easy for them to understand. All right. Then subheads, again, users don't sit down and read your page from top to bottom. Most of them will scan. So I just wanted to show you the subheads that were on this page. See the knockout, the knockoffs system, see how, blah, 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 help these brands. 7 reasons why Escalegal is your brand's best defense. 6 reasons why you need to act against counterfeiters and copycats today. How our system works to... If someone's just scanning the headlines, they're going to get it. Like, they are going to get it. Anyway, in summary, make it easy for people to understand and repeat your big idea key message throughout. What do you want them to take away? All right, the next one. We have, and I'm going to be showing you some ads, authenticity heuristic. What is this? This refers to the mental shortcuts that users on your page will take to judge your trustworthiness and genuineness. Our brain is looking for shortcuts, right? And also in society now, we don't really trust anything. There's a lot of fakeness out there. And so even when something appears overly polished or rehearsed, our brain can say, this might be marketing and I'm gonna ignore it. But if something feels imperfect or raw, we might think this person is telling the truth. So it works because we are constantly filtering for credibility online. We ignore what feels produced and we trust what feels lived. So for example, in the community, I just shared these top statics. And now every month I am going to give our top ads, give them as like template Canva packs or something, and then everybody in the community can use them. But these really simple statics are working right now, and everyone was really surprised. And these are literally crushing on nearly every single account, which is super cool. And they have been for months on and off. So you want to avoid fake or staged stuff. Don't lie. Be ethical. Don't lie. And you want to avoid that corporate tone that feels sterile or rehearsed. That's what we don't want. So how can you achieve the authenticity heuristic? Well, through authentic proof. So this is when we do with a mortgage broker. We got the actual bank loan details, the actual pictures, and the client, like, it was a pain in the ass. He had to go and get this, but it worked. Like, it looks good. And it's also like a pattern interrupt. It makes you look. Or we use native proof. Again, this is a pattern interrupt, but you want to look at it, right? And here's another example for a big outbound dialer that we did. I was like, so you guys are always messaging your clients, right? I was like, send me the messages. I was like, sick, I'm putting these on the page. I also know that people like to read other people's mail or messages, but it's like in their language. The way that you could do this better would be to have like circles or highlighter on it as well. All right, where am I? What day is it? Okay, that was the main thing. If you can do that, you'll be good. Next, narrative transportation. What does this mean? Let me tell you. This is a principle where people become so absorbed in a story that they momentarily lose awareness of their surroundings. You've probably seen this happen IRL, in real life. When this happens, their critical thinking drops because our brains are wired to crave stories. Like, we've been communicating through stories for thousands of years, right? So their emotions take over and they become more likely to believe and act on what they're reading. And it's not just about telling a story, it's about pulling them inside of one. And this is quite an art. So it works because stories bypass resistance. We don't argue with them the way that we would argue with a sales pitch. And when people are immersed, they become emotionally engaged, which means that you're more likely to trust, remember, and act. And it triggers identification because they start to imagine themselves in the same transformation. And I was talking to a client or somebody, I know, it was on a kickoff call. And we were sort of pinpointing where their current marketing was going wrong. And I was like, yes, because you're very feature, and you are not helping them to imagine the transformation or how their life is going to be after they buy it, right? That's what we want to do. We want to avoid starting with the offer. We're going to build the tension and the desire first, and we don't want to use generic case studies that don't show the transformation. So how do we do this? The first tool in my toolbox is affinity links. So this just means there's something about you and there's something about the target market, and you're the same people from the same tribe. And you can also do this, affinity links plus proven repeatable systems. So you can show, hey, I was just like you, or I am just like you, and I've got a proven, it worked for me, repeatable, I've helped others to achieve this for you, just like we have done with Bruno. Build a property portfolio like this. How I built a $3.5 million property portfolio at just 29 years. Awesome. Then this one, this is with that outbound dial-up. Imagine if your reps, blah, blah, blah. Back in 2019, I had 55 reps dialing 8 hours a day, but only speaking to 3 to 4 people. We were bleeding 40K monthly on leads. We couldn't even reach the problem, blah, blah, blah. So it's like, yes, I understand you. That's what we're looking to achieve. The next way to do this is copy that tells an emotional story, not just facts or features. This is for a hair loss doctor. I hear things like that far too often from men. Guys who have tried everything but haven't been able to win the fight against the creeping bald spots and receding hairline. They share stories of dates that couldn't look past their thinning hair, work presentations. See how this is like, you can pause this and read this more. See how this is very visceral. It paints imagery. They're getting drawn in to the story. And this is not even really a story. It's more information. It's more like a painting the before state. Then you can use client stories instead of the generic testimonials, right? And these are some different ways. You can have the videos on there, or you can sort of flesh them out into case studies. Awesome. Summary: stories sell, logic justifies. We have got 3 more to go, and we have got open loops. There's an ad. Let's look into it. An open loop is an unresolved idea or question that creates tension in the brain. Psychologically, humans crave closure. So when something's left unanswered, we feel pulled to keep going until the loop is closed. And these work because they create mental friction. And the only way to relieve it is by scrolling, clicking, or engaging further. This is specifically for the women watching this. If you ever watch Pretty Little Liars, and at the end of every episode, they'd have this big cliffhanger that would open a loop, and obviously every TV show does it. And then you would be like, I need to watch this. Like like when I was in university, I literally couldn't even function. I had to watch the next episode, right? So you can do this in your ads as well. We do that. It works because the open loop hijacks their attention. It disrupts that autopilot scrolling, and they create emotional momentum, right? Anyway, moving on. Then what you want to avoid is big claims with no tension or mystery, fake curiosity, and over-explaining too early. So let's have a look. We can open loops in subheads and headlines. As an example, are you in denial about your thinning hair? Get a permanent, thick, natural head of hair in 3 months, even if you have a busy schedule. How? How are people doing this? I want this. This is the lead on a page. The uncomfortable truth about remodels and home additions. Shit, I'm gonna have to read this copy now because I wanna know what the uncomfortable truth is. Then you can do it with the offer. So this is the lead gen offer for them to take up. I got other videos on offers, or I go over it in here. There's a lot, everything step by step. Anyway, yeah, everything in here, how to create good offers. So it's like, okay, like what is that? I want to know that. I need to get on this call. I need to understand what's my home going to look like with this design consultation. So the summary is for this, you want to create intrigue, but be careful on consultation versus ready now offers. You'll have to watch one of my other videos on that. Alrighty. Next is loss aversion. So loss aversion is a cognitive bias where people feel the pain of loss twice as strongly as the pleasure gain. In other words, losing $100 hurts more than gaining $100 feels good, okay? And it can be used to increase urgency and attention, and it can show them what they risk missing out on if they don't act. It works because fear is a strong motivator, then desire is stronger. And the brain prioritizes avoiding pain and regret, and people hate feeling like they've waited too long or missed out on an opportunity. Now, never lie, don't have fake urgency. Don't overuse scarcity in industries that don't make sense. Don't do fear mongering. People can smell it these days. And don't focus only on loss. For the reasons I cited earlier, you'll get shitty leads and shitty clients. Note, I am very careful about using this. Otherwise, you can cause alarm bells, right? Like traditional direct response is pretty hardcore on this stuff. You can do it more overtly, of course. And it is important to note that often people need to be shaken out of inertia, aka doing nothing, right? If you truly help them, you have to shake them out of inertia and make sure they're going to work with you. So we do that through highlighting the negative consequences of not acting. That might be in something like a comparison table. I can't show you any of my bigger finance clients where we show like the monetary difference, but this is a marketing ad out of Australia. It's for super, which is like a 401k. And it just shows you, okay, if you had it's like compare the pair, same age, same income, same super contribution. And one person, makes more money, one person makes less. And it's just a really clear way comparison, right? To show that you do different. And then of course, having real scarcity. So when we do our offers, our sales teams or our founder-led sales can genuinely only take on so many calls because time is linear. There is genuinely only so many calls that we can take on. So you can have that in there as well. And finally, we have the authority bias. What is this? Well, this is the tendency to give more weight to information or advice when it comes from a person or a source we perceive as an authority, right? It's like a mental shortcut for safety for us. Again, our brains are looking for the easiest way. We don't want to use calories or brain power. And it's like, okay, if they are an expert or if they're trusted by experts, it must be legit. So it works because we just want to outsource our thinking and our trust to credible sources. And the authority creates asymmetry, right? So when someone is the expert, the reader naturally takes the role of the student or follower, and that can even be borrowed authority. I'll show you that in a second. Again, don't make anything up. Don't make big claims with no proof. Don't bury your authority like too far down on the page, and don't overload it with too many badges and logos because that can start to look desperate and spammy. So one of the best ways to do this is obviously have an authority that you can build them up, but not everybody has that. So I'm not going to go on about that. Instead, I'm going to show you how you can borrow authority. So you can borrow authority by using logos of who you've worked with. You can borrow authority if you have testimonials that other people in the industry might know of. For example, this client had Cole Gordon, he had Andy Anderson, like if you were in this space, you would know them, someone from the Elliott Group, etc. This one had worked with a celebrity. Cool, are they happy to show it? Yes, let's use it. This one, no, not you. This one was, okay, we're saying something, let's use articles to prove the point. Awesome. Okay, this is in finance. Let's show what lenders, we're borrowing the clout. Okay, anywhere that we can show logo, there's the credibility. And then this one is one of my favorite ones where this was for a weight loss client. And this was before they had too much proof that we could show. So we were like, cool, well, let's show celebrities who have openly claimed to use this and put it on here. They didn't work with you, but they're backing the thing that you sell. So my summary here is don't be a faceless corporation. Use somebody real in your company. And if it's not a founder or a CEO, use another representative, or you can create a fictional ambassador. And team, that is your 9 psychological cheat codes. We have gone through them all now. For your next choose your own adventure, you have got 3 options. Number 1, if you want my full landing page system, step by step, all of my templates, all of my prompts, everything that you need, video teardowns, etc. It's all in here. You will make your landing page, you'll come and put it in the Q&A, and I'll send you a Loom video on how to make it better. If you are obsessed with marketing, this is where you need to be with 125 other fully obsessed people. Number 2, if you'd like an agency to do all of this for you, then book in a call with me directly, not a sales dude, and we'll go through and see if we're a good fit. You need to be doing minimum $1 million a year, and you want to scale on paid ads to get qualified leads. If you want to keep DIYing it, great, then watch this next video that YouTube recommends for you. And I hope you enjoyed today's training. Catch you in the next one.